What does liquidity mean in your estate plan? So, probably familiar with the term liquidity, and just for purposes of this conversation, it means you have cash on hand. It means that you are liquid, that if you need money, you have access to cash. You don't have to, sell things necessarily to have liquidity. Your estate plan is your will, your trust. And so a lot of times what I find is people have cash, but they might have the majority of their stuff in real estate, and they want to leave the real estate to their kids, to their family members, and they just plan on using the cash, using their liquid assets, their investments and everything while they're alive to pay for everything. And you might have to do that, right? That might be the case, especially if you have not done any sort of Medicaid planning, if that's a need that you're going to have, or you don't have any long-term care insurance or anything like that. But one thing to remember is just because you pass away doesn't mean that you're not going to owe any taxes, or that there's not going to be expenses associated with your estate. For example, funeral costs can be $10,000, $15,000 sometimes, if not more. You might have creditors that come after your estate for unpaid hospital bills, credit card bills, stuff like that. And so what happens is all the things that you're leaving to your family member, or you think that you're leaving to your family member, may actually not get to them, right? And they might have to sell off the house to pay for long-term care costs that you accumulated, or funeral costs that they didn't have the money to pay for. So there's a lot of pre-planning that you can do, especially things like long-term care, Medicaid planning, funeral home costs and expenses, cremation. You can pre-plan for that. There's a lot of really great options out there. So you might want to consider having some sort of liquidity in your estate plan. What a lot of people do is they will fund a life insurance policy, and then we will create an ILID, irrevocable life insurance trust, so that money can actually pay for all of your expenses. So you want to make sure that the house goes to your kids. Okay, great. Let's make sure then that they don't have to sell that house to be able to pay for some of your bills, right? Some of your expenses after you pass away. So you could actually create a life insurance policy with the purpose of that money to be able to pay for all of those expenses so that the kids get the house. That's just one of many options out there. So when you're doing your estate plan, or when you're thinking about it, it's great that you want to leave the house to the kids and some of these other assets, but make sure that they're actually going to keep it, be able to keep it, and not going to have to sell it or sell other things that they have in order to pay for some of your expenses. So it should be a comprehensive conversation that you have with your planning attorney. Make sure that there is liquidity in your estate plan.